You want to know how to turn fear into power? Well, I have an acronym for you that could change your life. But first, let's talk about fear and what it is. The first thing that you want to do with fear is identify what fear is in your life. What does it look like when it hits you? We all have spaces within us that cause us to feel fear, and they're different. They're your own. This is what scares you and may not scare another. I might feel free to jump out of a plane and skydive, and you might say that's crazy and you don't want to do it, but you might feel the desire to get up and, present to 1,000 people your math thesis, and that would shake me down to my boots. I couldn't do it. We all have different spaces. So where in your life is fear hitting you that you feel, hey, this is inhibiting me from moving into a space that I want? It's okay to have a fear that keeps you away. Fear of maybe putting your hand on top of a red hot stove. That's not a bad thing. Go ahead, let that fear stay there so you don't get burned. But if your fear is one that is keeping you from doing or moving into a space that you long to be, this is a fear that's not serving you. So you want to look at that and say, oh my gosh, my fear of speaking to strangers is keeping me from making friends. I want to get over that. And if it's paralyzing and you're saying, man, this fear is really hitting me, this is how you do it. Identify it first. What does it look like? How does it process in your body? Where does it sit? Is it in your chest? It is in your stomach. It is in your back. All of these things, you look at it and you feel what it is for your body. You sense the scenario that you are in when that fear hits you. You play it all out in your mind. Really picture it. Then when you know how it hits you and what it looks like in your life, you need to understand how fear works. Because fear ignites your fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all those words. It ignites your survival instinct. Your survival instinct is something that happens that allows you to react with great speed in a near-death situation, a situation that you must get out of quickly because it requires habitual behavior that you don't have to think or process. It just moves. This is good when you're, say, on a battlefield or out hunting and you've got animals that could attack you, or you're in those situations about to have a car crash and you just react so quickly because you're on the moment. Boom. All of these times, that is a good instinct. But many times, we're ignited with a fear response in a boardroom when we're confronted with a question about a project that we're on that we maybe have lost a bit of control or we're behind, and we get that question and it ignites our fight or flight. We're now not able to process information the way we want to. We're not able to meet the question in the way we want to. You're on a date. You're feeling awkward. You don't know how to ignite a conversation because you're too scared, worrying about your own fear, to have an easy, engaged conversation with somebody. I can't think. There's so many scenarios, right, where we might be feeling this fear and it doesn't serve us. So when you understand this is essential for survival, what's happening to me is my really default mode. Our brains come with this default mode to keep us alive. So this is my default response. I have the capacity, as a person I am, to say, I don't want this response in this situation. It's not going to kill me. It's not something that's serving me. I want to push through it. When you begin to think like that, then you can approach fear in a new way. You can understand when fear should be turned into excitement and facing the challenge, or when it should be let to run free to get you the hell out of there. Right? So if this is the case with you and you're facing something and you have a space in your life and you're like, I really want to be able to push through this. This is the template that I have used my whole life. And I've actually broken through 3 phobias using this template for myself. My first phobia that I actually used it for most significantly was my fear of snakes. I was so afraid of snakes as a kid that I couldn't even look at a picture and hold that book in my hand. If I saw a picture in a book, I often flipped through my father's subscription to National Geographic, and these amazing visual images around the world of places that I would love to go and visit as a kid. I would flow through and read about. It just fascinated me. And then I'd turn the page and there'd be some viper or some kind of snake on the page, and I would throw that National Geographic across the room, I wouldn't even want to touch it ever again, knowing there was a snake in it. That's how bad my phobia was. So I knew this was a problem because I was a young boy, and in my hometown in Canada, where my buddies all ran around in the woods finding snakes, this was not an okay fear to have. And I had to be able to not scream and run in terror every time I saw a snake. So I'm like, what do I got to do? And I developed this process to allow me to deal with my fear of snakes. And it's called brave. And the first thing that you want to do is boldly admit that you are afraid. Just admit it. And I could do that. I knew I was terrified of snakes. And having that knowledge, this is an irrational fear, beyond the scope of what I want it to be, allowed me then to say, I can process it. The next thing I did in order to deal with this fear was recognize that I'm brave. To recognize I had incredible bravery in me. There were things that I could do that my friends could not. There were spaces where I would, jump off a cliff or do a stunt or, do something that would get me in trouble that nobody else would do because I was that kid. And I recognized I have bravery in me that they don't. And so they're just brave in a space that I'm not. And I had seen them reacting in surprise to me in my space of bravery. And I thought, I could switch that. And that thought process alone really helped me take where I was brave and put it on this space of fear. So I had to act, this is the next step, acting on one space or place of fear at a time. My fear of snakes was so comprehensive that my ability to interact with them was very, very limited. I couldn't even look at a picture. So rather than just dive in and start holding snakes or exposing myself to them, that was way too overwhelming for me in that level of fear that I was dealing with, my phobia. What I did is I would shuffle through a stack of National Geographic magazines till I got to one where, honestly, I knew these books by the cover. I could get to the cover and I'd be like, there's a snake in that book, and I didn't even want to touch it. All I would do in that case is I determined, rather than even look at a picture, I would just get close to the magazine. Just put my hands in proximity. I wouldn't even touch it. That was the one little act I decided to do versus going all the way to the end. So you break it down into incremental, manageable components of fear that you can face at a time in this space that you're working on. And then verify, what is the worst case scenario? If what I'm scared of, if you examine that fear that you have, in this case, what I'm doing, what is the worst case scenario? So I think my worst case scenario in the space that I started would have been a paper cut, possibly, because I wasn't even touching the magazine. So maybe if I pulled my hand away and accidentally touched the edge, there was no worst case scenario for me. It was just discomfort, feeling uncomfortable being next to a picture of a snake. Once I understood what my worst case scenario was, I can really begin to rationally, while I'm in a calm space, say, this is silly. I can do this. I'm not about to get hurt. I'm not about to get killed. Even if you are about to get hurt or killed, if you do this, you can determine, am I willing to assume that risk? When you know what you can assume and what you'll take on, it frees you to act, because now you have boundaries within which you are moving. So once that's decided, then you extend the final step, the time that you can sit in this space of fear. So if this is a simple fear, not a phobia, you can move through this in one sitting. You can walk through, you can say, you know what, I'm scared to ask this girl out. I think she's really great, but she makes me nervous because what if she rejects me? What's my worst case scenario? If I ask her out, she says, you know what, no, I despise you, you're a horrible person, I don't ever want to see you again. Can I live with that? Yeah, I can live with that. Then I go and do it, right? It's over. For me, that would be like a quick run through of this. With snakes, it started with me sitting next to a magazine and my hand hovering over it about 6 inches. And I would shake with fear. And I did this until it got to where I could put my hand there and I wasn't fearful at all. I had no shaking. And so then I went to another stage. I put my hand on the magazine. Eventually I put my hand on the picture of the snake in the magazine. I incrementally did this for years. It took me years. And do you know that at the end of summer last year, that's what it was. The end of summer last year, I was on a hike with my friend and we come across a rattlesnake coiled on the edge of the trail. And I was able to stand there after I got a hold of myself. I had an initial fear at seeing the snake. That's natural for me. I stood there, I turned, the rattlesnake started to slither away, and I grabbed the rattler on this snake. And the electric excitement that shot through my body and lit me up was incredible. Now, not everybody wants to touch a poisonous snake, and I would say that I had not wanted to either until I saw the crocodile hunter on TV and decided I want to be brave as that guy. Now, I didn't pick it up or do anything beyond that other than grab the snake, and as it turned to come back at me, I let go and backed away. But that was a huge accomplishment for me in recognizing I can metabolize even my phobias to an extent that very few people without a phobia will even go. That's the power of this template. If you're scared of something and you want to process it and move through it and turn it into a place of excitement, run through this template. Allow yourself the space to recognize I can become a powerhouse here if I keep moving. It's just like building a muscle, going on any sort of system of development. This will do it for fear. Hope you like it. I'm James. Thanks for joining me.